our thoughts are energy. It's something we don't consciously think about, even though we know it happens. Like we know someone can go in for a brain scan and they can measure activity in the brain. That is all electrical charges. But we don't necessarily think of our brain, even though we know it's electricity and that we have electricity within us and have, we're electric beings, but that it's also energy. It's the same thing. And I think it's probably because, lights are cold, not living, and we're these squishy human beings, but it's the same energy. And I really want us to really understand this concept for today, because it's super important that once we understand and can believe that our thoughts are energy, we have incredible power that we are able to harness. So a concept that's very common in traditional physics is the concept of potential energy versus kinetic energy. It's very well known, it's very studied. It's the idea of when you are holding an apple, like Isaac Newton, when he discovered gravity. That apple had the potential to fall the whole time it was on that tree. So it was sitting there in potential energy. And once something happened, some sort of external stimulus, say the wind coming through, it knocked that apple off the tree, and that potential energy was then converted into kinetic energy. And that was how it fell. And our thoughts are the same way if our thoughts are energy. When we're thinking of something, it's just potential energy. And then that gets transmitted out into kinetic energy. And that's why when someone, calls you, that thought had then been converted into kinetic energy. So another concept on how I want to illustrate this potential versus kinetic energy is in the train, and especially the steam engine, because you can see how much steam is coming out of this engine to get it started. It's overcoming something called inertia, another physics term. Thank goodness I went to engineering school, right? Learned all these physics terms. So it's overcoming the inertia of the train, of all the energy that's required to convert it from potential energy into kinetic energy. And you can see that through the steam. So now let's look at a train that's already in motion. And you can see very little steam is actually coming out of this train. And that's because it's already in motion and it doesn't require as much energy to stay in motion. And this is a really important, another universal law, and that is the law that objects in motion like to stay in motion. Okay, so once we kind of have those concepts down, then we can get into this next part, which is really the gems of what we wanted to talk about. Oops, went too far. There we go. So if we believe our thoughts are energy, and if we understand that how we convert potential energy into kinetic energy, then you might be thinking, well, why is my life not working the way I want it to? Why have I not been able to accomplish goals that I've set out for myself? And there's a few factors that play into this. So the first one is doubt and uncertainty. Doubt and uncertainty, and I would even add worry into this, keep us stuck. They keep our thoughts from converting into our dreams and desires. They keep us from having that forward momentum. They're so strong that we can't overcome any positive emotions that we have. So we have to get our doubt and uncertainty under control in order to be moving forward. And that comes down to our subconscious patterns. So yesterday we talked about how our brain loves to create patterns for us, and it was initially created to protect us. But some of our patterns no longer protect us. And so we have to be able to overcome the inertia of these patterns. We have to be able to rewrite these patterns so that they serve us, so that we are able to get back into motion. And we all know, we've all experienced this, the train illustrates it. The hardest part is getting started. And it's so many factors. It's because of the patterns. It's the doubt and uncertainty and worry. There's so many things that prevent us from getting started. But once we can get started, once we can have that consistency in our thought patterns, the consistency of our feelings, the consistency of our actions, we build momentum. And then once we have the momentum, we're like that train, the second train, where it just goes because objects in motion like to stay in motion.